Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you the updated battle group overview for the 116th Panzer, or Windhund-Division. Now I was planning to do the battle group overviews in the same order as I did previously, but since the 116th Panzer was requested and was upvoted a lot in the comments, I decided to bring it to you guys as soon as possible, so here it is. So with the 116th, what has changed? Well, not too much really. It's not had too many balancing changes. A lot of the units are pretty standard across most divisions, so they haven't had much adjustment. But in terms of my division personally, I've changed it around quite a lot, just to sort of make it a bit more balanced and a bit more bearable to play. Now, same as my previous battle group overview, I'm still not a massive fan of the 116th Panzer, but I know a lot of people are, and I could understand why. But let's start off by looking at my Recon. So in the Recon tab, I've got quite a large availability of Speertroop. Speertroop are very important because they are the only Recon infantry you can get in this division, and just having infantry recon in general is very important in my opinion, and having a lot of it is also important for this division specifically because you rely a lot on armoured vehicles, and in a lot of cases quite lightly armoured vehicles that could easily be popped by AT guns, so making sure you know where every AT gun is on the map is of vital importance. And the Speertroop are the main ones that are going to find out that information for you, because they are the only units in the Recon tab that have the very high optics. So 2 cards of Speertroop in Phase A. I've got a card in Phase B for extra availability as well. And then aside from those, I have the 2341 and the 2343, both very good fire support vehicles, kind of have their own uses. The 2343 has pretty much the same stats in terms of HE value than the 2341, but the 2343 has a higher sort of suppression value, so it can suppress stuff very easily, and that's really nice. So the 2343 with the 9HE 75mm gun, you can pin down groups of units. It's great for like stunning infantry and killing it out in the open, and also just for deleting enemy AT guns that may have already been pinned down. The 2341, however, this is more just like your straight up lethality, because it has the HE value and the rate of fire to really like decimate an infantry squad at close range. So that's what I would use the 2341, but both of these vehicles are there for the mobility and the fire support, rather than the Recon, that is. So let's move on to the infantry tab. Now my infantry tab is pretty much exactly the same, not much has changed. I'm still relying on the Panzer Grenadiers and MG42s in Phase A. I don't bring in any Panzer Grenadier because I get my command from elsewhere. So in Phase A, when I play the 116th Panzer, I generally use my Befehl Panzer 3s with my infantry early on. And then you can also bring in 232s to supplement if you need to. So that's what I generally do. Then moving into Phase B, it's all about availability, and Panzer Grenadiers are fantastic line infantry. So having the 2 MG42s available in each of these squads just makes them great for holding the front line. I have some Pioneers for the close range engagements if I ever need them, especially good for like destroying buildings in towns and maybe some forest engagements, but since I don't have like an overwhelming ability to take a forest, I'll probably generally avoid them. But Pioneers still there, still can be useful, very versatile unit. Now there is the choice to take some Sturm Pioneers instead of Pioneers, but I find that flamethrowers are underwhelming compared to the 20 HE power grenades these days. So that's pretty much the same. If we move on to the tank tab, things have changed a little bit. I don't really rely on the Befehl Panzer 4s much, and I've removed the Panzer 4Hs completely from this division. In Phase A, I've also changed from using the Panzer 3Ms to the Panzer 3Ls. And the reason being is, like, the Panzer 3Ms are great and all, but I just don't find I bring them in anymore. Like, the Panzer 3Ms are 110 points. The main difference is that they have one more veterancy and one more side armor. Now, since the veterancy nerf, I find that the Panzer 3Ls just do the same job, but for cheaper. And like I said, I don't bring them in very often. So what I would use a Panzer 3L for really is for taking on Stuarts and half-tracks. Anything larger, I would just avoid. So having the extra side armor and the experience, to me, isn't worth it, and I don't tend to use them too often. So that's where I am with the Panzer 3Ls at the moment, and that's why they sit a place in my division. Furthermore, you also get double the availability, so 4 Panzer 3Ls on one card as opposed to 4 over 2 cards, which saves me an activation point to use elsewhere. And you can see that I haven't even filled my tank tab now. So I used to have a card of Panzer 4Hs, but they've been removed. So now I just have the 3 up-vetted Panther Gs in the last 3 slots. I saved a slot here with a few adjustments, and I think it works out quite nicely. Moving on to the support tab. I'm currently making use of the 258s again for more fire support for my infantry early on. 45 points apiece, can't really go wrong, same cost as an IG-18, except from they're armoured instead and have a machine gun on them. So yeah, just a generally nice unit for infantry fire support. Then I have the 232s to provide me with extra command in the division. There's actually not too much command available, so making use of the 232s is quite necessary throughout the game, and therefore they have a place in my division. Then I have a card of the Opel Blitz munition, and this is solely to resupply the Panzerwerfers early on. Now this was the same in my old division, except from since then, what they've done is remove the availability of like having 2 Opel Blitz munitions in Phase A as opposed to just 1. So now I have to supplement that by bringing in 2 more in Phase B. So that's an extra support slot that was used up. Basically replaced some 232s with more Opel Blitz munitions so that I can continue to use the Panzerwerfers into the mid and late game. Then also in Phase A, I do have the Flampanzer. These are fantastic units for firing flames all over the place on the move early on in the game to destroy infantry and force light vehicles to surrender. These things are absolutely fantastic if used correctly and you don't bump into any significant AT. So there you go, that's the support tab. Not too much changed really. Just the switch up of the 232 for some more supply since the supply availability was nerfed previously. I still don't find the guerrillas worth bringing because of their low rate of fire. Moving into the anti-tank tab. So this is where things have changed most dramatically, I think. I now have the 2 cards of Jagdpanzer 4s in Phase B. What I used to have was 2 cards of Pak 43s and a card of Jagdpanzer 4s in Phase C, and no Phase B AT, and then the Phase A Pak 38s like I have in front of you. But what I've done now is, instead of relying on, for example, Panzer 4Hs with the 140 points in Phase B, I now just tend to rely solely on Jagdpanzer 4s. Now keeping command with them is very necessary due to them not having any veterancy of their own, but Jagdpanzers are fantastic. They can really do some serious damage to the enemy and have a lot of front armor that can really be a big issue for anything but a 17 pounder. So that's really where the advantage of the Jagdpanzer comes from and is a great investment in Phase B. Decent value for money as well. In Phase C, having the Pak 43s, or at least one card of them, I feel is necessary just for if you're going to be bumping into jumbos. These are the jumbo killers after all. Also anything significant in terms of armor, like Fireflies and so on, will get picked off very easily by a Pak 43, especially with a 1-star veterancy. So use them for just overwhelming tanks. Now let's discuss other things actually while we're here. Marder 3s, I just don't find them useful without their veterancy, and with their light armor means they can actually be strafed by like planes very easily and taken out that way. The Panzerschrecks would be very nice. Like having the ability to bring in some Panzerschrecks is also like a decent choice maybe. Like maybe you could supplement, you could have 2 of the Jagdpanzers from Phase B be 4 Panzerschrecks in Phase B, because Panzerschrecks are just great for ambushing enemy units. The other thing you could do, I found I use a lot of Jagdpanzers, is move 2 of your Jagdpanzers from Phase B to Phase C. So there is that decision as well. It's up to you guys. It depends on how often you bring out Jagdpanzer 4s, but I always find I bring out about 3 during Phase B. It's a lot of points, but if I've played Phase A correctly, then it's actually not too bad. So moving into the anti-air, it's all mobile wagons. These mobile wagons are great 1000 meter range, 13 HE power AA, and they're mobile. They have a decent amount of armor as well, so they're not going to get bombed out too easy, although they are technically classed as open top, so you've got to be a little bit careful. But mobile wagons, I find that they are, you know, decent to help your air tab. I wouldn't just bring them in on their own. Maybe if I was being harassed by multiple aircraft, I might be forced to bring them in. But in general, like what I would do if I was going to ever bring in mobile wagons is also bring in my Focke-Wulfs at the same time, or the ME-109, sorry, and basically use them in tandem in order to take down enemy aircraft. So the mobile wagon is there, and you can get 4 of them in Phase B. You can get 2 more in Phase A as well, but I just don't have the activation points to bring any more AA in. So 4 mobile wagons will have to do the job. And in general, as the 116th, you tend to keep your attacks quite concentrated. So 4 mobile wagons should be enough to keep the majority of the air out the way. Moving into the artillery tab, this has also changed quite significantly. I originally had Hummels on the division, but I don't find Hummels very good at all. Again, it's the low rate of fire, and also the 27HE doesn't really feel like 27HE. You've got to hit directly on target to really do a lot of damage, and generally that's not going to happen. Whereas if you're playing with like a Vesper or something like that, you've got the 4 round per minute rate of fire, a little bit more, 15 HE power, but you just have like so many more shots, right? You've got so many more chances to hit something, and when you do, it still does enough damage to get the kill shots. So I removed the Hummels entirely. I've gone down to 3 cards of artillery. I also removed one of my half-tracks, the mortar half-tracks, because I rely solely on Panzerwerfers now. I find Panzerwerfers are more than good enough for taking out enemy AT, and if you use them in conjunction with this Spaethroop, you're really not going to come up against much AT that's going to stop your tanks. If it's enemy tanks, then you got Panthers, you got Jagdpanzers, and in the early phases you got your Panzer 3Ls. But AT guns specifically, Panzerwerfers will take care of them no problem as long as you spot them with your Recon. So you don't need the mortars to do that. Also, the great thing about the Panzerwerfer is you can drive it forwards, fire your rounds, drive it back. I would also recommend doing that just so that they don't get killed off, and you should be able to use your Panzerwerfers from all the way from Phase A to Phase C. And with the amount of supply that I bring in the support tab, they'll be supplied the whole way. So moving into the air tab, the final tab for the 116th, I have both of the elite ME-109 G6 R6s. These are very quick at shooting down enemy planes, and like I said before, if used in conjunction with the mobile wagons, you won't really find much you can't beat. The only thing that may get you down is air spam in general. If somebody has already invested a lot into air and has multiple Mustangs or something, for example, then buying air at all is very risky. The only air that you could probably afford to buy is maybe the Ju-87G or the Focke-Wulf 190s, if the opponent brings in their fighters and then evacs them. Whilst they're evacing, bring in like your bomber or so on, and by the time that the opponents have refueled, your bomber will be out of there. So if you time it correctly, you can still use the like bombers and so on, but the fighters will just be useless. So I have a low availability of fighters. The ME-109G0s just don't have the firepower nor the veterancy to really be effective. So you're solely reliant on these ME-109s, and this is basically the same as I had it before. ME-109s, and I used to have one card of the Focke-Wulf 190G1s as well, because the 15 HE power bombs can like one-shot AT guns, which is really useful. The Ju-87G was sort of a recent addition because I found so much success with them in other divisions. The only issue with this Ju-87G is its lack of veterancy again, so you're a little bit less likely to hit, but if you come in from the sidearm and get close range shots, you still have plenty of chances to get those kills, and it should do the job. So the Ju-87 just there to pick off harder targets, and also targets that are covered by tree lines and so on that you can otherwise hit by your own AT and tanks. And that's about it. That's basically my battle group, and the main changes really come from like the AT tab, using the Jagdpanzers as my main battle tanks in Phase B, rather than having a card of Panzer IVs that I never brought in. So I saved an activation point there. I also saved an activation point by changing from Panzer 3Ms to Panzer 3Ls, and you can see that I added that to the air tab. I also removed a card of artillery, so that was another card that I put into my Recon tab. So in terms of the entire balance of the division, I've changed it around quite a bit, and it plays a lot nicer than it used to. I'm a lot more comfortable using the 116th Panzer now than I was previously, but it's still not my favourite division. Just because it lacks the infantry and hard slogging gameplay that I really enjoy with like the 716th and 352nd. Like the infantry based divisions, I love. And this is much more sort of armoured gameplay and is a lot more, I would say, risky, but at the same time can be very rewarding. So yeah, it's up to you guys. I mean, obviously you guys have your own opinions on the divisions. Let me know what you guys think of my battle group and any changes that you guys would make personally. But that's all from me for now. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.